everyone! So today, even though it's a little bit late, I'm going to be doing my what I read in December video. And I read all of these books in December with the first one I read on the top. So, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I read in December was Insurgent by Veronica Roth. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and I know I'm kind of way behind on reading this series. I read Divergent fairly recently too, but I just had never gotten around to getting the second one. So, yes, I liked it. That's all I'm gonna say. Next, I read My True Love Gave to Me by a bunch of people, but it was edited together by Stephanie Perkins. And this book, like most short story books, it kind of had good ones and it had bad ones. So the good ones were very, very good. But for me, they were kind of few and far between. So I think I gave this a 4 out of 5, but I think reflecting back on it, I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5. Next, I read The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. And I read this because I couldn't remember if I had read it before or not, and I think halfway through I remembered that I had, but I'm not a big fan of the movie, and so I like the book a lot better than the movie, and I think I gave this 4 out of 5 stars too. The next book I read was Big Fish by Daniel Wallace, and I believe I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Now this book is a pretty famous movie that was directed by Tim Burton, but I'm a big fan of that movie and I never read this before. It's very similar. I think I like the book better than the movie, but they definitely are pretty similar. It's about a boy and his father's dying, and he's trying to put together all the stories that his father has told them about his father's life, and he's talking to his father about, hey Dad, what's true and what did you make up, and that's all I want to say. Next, I read the second Cirque du Freak book, The Vampire's Assistant, by Darren Shan, and I loved it. I liked it better than the first one. It's so frustrating though, because I'm one of those people that has to have the same, all the covers have to look the same, and for some reason the third book in this series, where is this cover? It's nowhere. So I have not gotten it yet because it's not going to match, even though I really want to read the rest of the series, so frustrating. Next, I read An Unquiet Mind by Kay Redfield Jamison, and this is a memoir about a person with manic depression. And this lady is a professor, I believe, and so the writing is very, very good, obviously. It was just very interesting. I'm a psychology major, and so I like to read a bunch of memoirs and stuff, and to me, by reading this, I really got a good feel for what it's like to have manic depression. So I think I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Now, finally, one that was not 4 out of 5 stars, The Descendants. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I have never seen the movie. I don't particularly like George Clooney, and so I didn't jump on the wagon and go see the movie. And after reading this, I kind of don't want to see the movie because I feel like it's gonna ruin the book. This book was amazing. It's about a dad, and he has 2 daughters, and his wife is on life support, and they're dealing with saying goodbye to her and trying to find closure, telling all the relatives that, they have to take her off of life support. And it sounds very depressing, and it is sad, but it's it kind of has a hopeful ending. It talks about, how everyone goes through sad parts of their lives and everything, but the happy moments are what makes it worthwhile, and so I highly, highly recommend this. It was so much better than I thought it would be. Next, I read Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I read the book first, and I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars. I will probably post just a book review of this book because I have a lot to say about it, but the first half I kind of was like, eh, and then the plot twist came and I was like, oh my god, this is great, and by the end of it, it was a 4 out of 5 star. The first half, I started this in like early December and I finished it in late December because I put it down for like 2 weeks. I didn't feel like reading it. It just wasn't capturing my attention, but I'm extremely glad that I stuck with it because it was very worth it, so recommend. Next, to continue my psychological memoir month, I guess, I read Sickened by Julie Gregory, and this is a memoir of a girl whose mother had Munchausen's, and so it's her being affected by Munchausen's by proxy. I think I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. I would have given it 3.5 if Goodreads did half stars, just because it seemed to kind of get off track sometimes. It started going into great detail about people and external events that weren't really central to the story, and at least for me, as a psych major, I'm reading this to get a feel for what it is like to have a mother who has Munchausen's, and some of the stuff seemed kind of superfluous, but I really did enjoy it. Next, I read Let It Snow by John Green, Maureen Johnson, and Lauren Miracle, and I think I am the last person to read this. I finally read it, and it was amazing. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. This book is the reason why I decided to go lower with my rating for my True Love Gave to Me. Just because this one was so good. All 3 stories in here were so well written. They were so cute. And I love that they all intertwine. They all took place in the same city. So, highly, highly recommend this. The next book I read was Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. And this was a Christmas present, and I was super excited to read it. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't amazing. You know, it wasn't a 5-star book for me, but I do get why everyone talks about it, why everyone loves it. The writing is incredible. Rainbow Rowell is so good at describing characters. Next, I read Allegiant, the 3rd book in the Divergent trilogy by Veronica Roth. This book, I knew, sadly, I knew not the plot twist, but the kind of elephant in the room regarding this book. I knew it before I read it, and I was very sad to have gotten that spoiler ahead of time, and I just heard so many people say that this book was such a letdown. I really liked it. I don't know, keeping with the spoiler, I don't know if I 100% support that spoiler, but I kind of get it. I get it. I really recommend the Divergent trilogy. It kind of has helped me get over my heartbreak for the Hunger Games trilogy, just because I love that so much. And Hunger Games, I like Hunger Games better than Divergent, but this helped ease the pain. The last book I read in December was Monkey Mind by Daniel Smith, and this is a memoir about anxiety. I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. It had some insightful moments, and I have anxiety. I have the anxiety disorder that he has in this book, and so I was reading this to just kind of maybe have someone else to relate to, you know, or have someone be like, you know, and then when this happened and I had an anxiety attack, it felt like this, and where I could be like, wow, that's, you know, for someone to put how I experience things into words, that's what I was looking for with this, and it did not happen for me. It's a short book, and it took me a month to read because I didn't want to pick it up, but then I was like determined to finish it anyway. But it had less to do with anxiety and more of him like blaming certain situations and circumstances in his life, using those as to say that's the cause of my anxiety, which is kind of weird since, you know, a lot of disorders like that are partly chemical imbalances in your brain. If you, especially, this is what scares me, is if you want to get to know more about anxiety disorders, don't read this book. I feel like it really does not help represent or accurately describe how it feels to live with an anxiety disorder as someone who has one. So I would pick a different anxiety memoir, for sure. Okay guys, so that is it with my December book reads, what I read in December. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will talk to you later. And hopefully I won't be this late with my January reads. Bye guys!